My name is Jordan Klingler. I'm a political science major, and my topic is Trump's foreign policy on North Korea. I chose this topic because I find it to be most interesting considering it concerns North Korea's nuclear capabilities. It also involves major players in politics such as Russia, China, South Korea, and Japan, along with the United States. Just a little background before we begin. The United States has always tried to contain North Korea's nuclear capability, dating back to Bush Sr.'s presidency. However, the main efforts to establish relations began under the Clinton administration with diplomatic visits from former President Jimmy Carter and former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright. Along with imposing sanctions, the main effort for peace under the Clinton administration was the Agreed Framework, which was an agreement between the U.S. and North Korea where the main objective was the freezing and replacement of North Korea's nuclear power plant program with light water reactor plants and step-by-step normalization of relations between the two countries. The next big effort following the Clinton administration was the six-party talks under the Bush administration. These talks involved Japan, the US, China, Russia, North Korea, and South Korea, with the main objective of finding a solution to North Korea's nuclear program. Under the Obama administration, the main focus was economic sanctions, which then leads us into the Trump administration. As you can see from the images on this slide, it outlines the missile capabilities of North Korea. The image on the left focuses on the number of missile launches, while the image on the right focuses on the range that each missile is capable of reaching. The image on the left only goes up until July, which concludes 91 total tests for Kim Jong-un, but since July, 3 more missiles have been launched, bringing the total to 94 tests under Kim Jong-un. The following slide outlines every aspect of the foreign policy plan under the Trump administration, with the first being sanctions, which are penalties or other means of enforcement used to provide incentives for obedience with the law or with rules and regulations. Sanctions can fall under three categories: economic, which are commercial and financial penalties that typically put a ban on trade; international sanctions, which are political and economic decisions that are part of diplomatic efforts by countries against states or organizations to protect national security interests or protect international law. Finally, they can be pragmatic sanctions, which is a sovereign solemn decree on a matter of primary importance and has the force of fundamental law. The Trump administration has also used executive orders, diplomatic visits / peace talks, military threats in action, travel restrictions, and designations. Designations are restrictions implemented by the Treasury Department on individuals whose assets are blocked and who U.S. persons are prohibited from dealing with. The first aspect we are going to look at are sanctions and executive orders. Executive Order 13810 was issued on September 20th of 2017, which imposed additional sanctions on North Korea due to the North conducting ICBM launches in July of 2017. The executive order broadly expanded sanctions against North Korean targets, individuals, and entities that are part of certain key sectors of North Korea's economy, people that trade with North Korea, aircraft and vessels that travel to and from the country, and funds to North Korean individuals. It also allows the Secretary of Treasury to impose secondary sanctions on foreign financial institutions that engage in transactions involving North Korea. Under the Trump administration, the UN Security Council has imposed three different sanctions on North Korea. Resolution 2371, which was passed in August of 2017, banned all exports of coal, iron, lead, and seafood. The resolution also imposed new restrictions on North Korea's foreign trade bank and prohibited any increase in the number of North Koreans working in foreign countries. Resolution 2375, passed in September of 2017, limited North Korean crude oil and refined petroleum product imports, banned joint ventures, textile imports, natural gas condensate, and liquid imports, and banned North Korean nationals from working abroad in other countries. Resolution 2397, passed in December of 2017, limited North Korea's crude oil and refined petroleum imports to 500,000 barrels per year, banned export of food, machinery, and electrical equipment, and called for repatriation of all North Korean nationals earning income abroad. Finally, the sanction allowed authorized member states to seize and inspect any vessel in territorial water found to be illicitly providing oil or other prohibited products to North Korea. The final sanction that the U.S. issued was the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act of 2017, which imposed sanctions on North Korea along with Russia and Iran. The Provisions for the North Korean sanctions increased Trump's authority to impose sanctions on North Korea. The State Department must submit a determination regarding if North Korea meets criteria for being designated as a state sponsor of terrorism, sanctions against North Korean cargo and shipping, and food produced in North Korea. It also allows the U.S. to prohibit countries from receiving certain types of assistance from the U.S. that provides North Korea with a defense article, and finally prohibits U.S. financial institutions from maintaining correspondent accounts used by financial institutions to provide indirect financial services to North Korea. The next aspect of foreign policy plan is diplomatic visits/peace talks. Mike Pompeo, who was CIA Director from January 2017 to April 2018 and Secretary of State from April 2018 till now, has played an important role in peace talks. In April of 2018, it was reported then acting CIA Director Mike Pompeo held a meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in North Korea, which would lay the groundwork for talks to come. In May of 2018, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo met with North Korean General Kim Yong-chol in New York to discuss an expected summit between President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. In July of 2018, Pompeo visited the North Korean capital Pyongyang to meet with Kim Yong-chol to continue consultations and implement the forward progress. In September of 2018, Pompeo met with North Korean Foreign Minister Ri Yong-ho in New York on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly, in which Pompeo accepted an invitation from Kim Jong-un to visit Pyongyang the following month. In October of 2018, Pompeo met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Pyongyang, in which they confirmed the dismantling of a nuclear test site and discussed options for location and date for a meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong-un. Other peace talks that have taken place are on June 1st, 2018, North Korean General Kim Yong-chol met with President Trump and Secretary Pompeo to deliver a letter to Trump from Kim Jong-un and to schedule a summit to take place between the two countries. On January 18, 2018, top North Korean diplomat Kim Yong-chol again met with Secretary Pompeo and President Trump to discuss a second summit between the two countries. From January 19th to the 21st in 2019, North Korean Vice Foreign Minister Cho Sun-hoi, U.S. Special Representative for North Korea Stephen Biegun, and South Korean negotiator Lee Do-hoon met in Stockholm to discuss confidence building, economic development, and long-term engagement. However, the three main diplomatic visits/peace talks under the Trump administration have been the Singapore and Hanoi summit and the DMZ meeting. The first summit took place in June of 2018 in Singapore. Diplomats from the United States and North Korea attended the summit. The main goal of the summit was to get peace talks going and to establish peace in the Korean Peninsula. This was the first time the leaders from these two countries have formally met. At the summit, a joint statement was signed between the two countries in which they agreed to security guarantees for North Korea, new peaceful relations, the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, recovery of soldier remains, and follow-up negotiations between high-level officials. Following this summit, the United States stopped conducting joint military exercises with South Korea. The second major peace talk took place at the Hanoi summit. The summit took place from February 27th to the 28th of 2019 in Hanoi, Vietnam. It involved delegations from the United States and North Korea. It was the second meeting between these two leaders. The meeting was to again establish peace talks and to try to solve the issue of denuclearization towards North Korea. President Trump and Kim Jong-un had two one-on-one meetings that took place on each of the days. At the end of the summit, it was announced that a deal had not been reached between the two countries. Trump reported to the news that an agreement did not get reached because North Korea wanted all economic sanctions to win. However, North Korea rebutted this statement, saying they only asked for partial lifting of the sanctions. Also discussed at the summit was Otto Warmbier, who was arrested in North Korea and who died when being returned to the U.S. NBC News reported that the main focus was the dismantling of the Yongbyon nuclear facility, which is the heart of the North Korean nuclear program. A nuclear scientist by the name of Dr. Siegfried Hecker claimed if that facility was dismantled, they would never be able to make plutonium there again. The last peace talk that occurred under the Trump administration was the summit that took place at the DMZ. The DMZ is a military zone between the countries of North and South Korea. The summit took place on June 30th of 2019 and involved delegates from the United States, North Korea, and South Korea. The summit was only a visit to the DMZ zone in which President Trump stepped foot into North Korea, being the first U.S. president to do so. During the meeting, President Trump invited Kim Jong-un to come to the White House. President Trump and Kim Jong-un also held a private meeting between the two in the Freedom House, which is a building in the DMZ zone. Following the encounter, both countries announced the resumption of working nuclear-level talks. The next aspect we are going to look at is military threats / action. While there has been no actual military action, there has been military threats and military exercises that concern the two countries. In August of 2017, President Trump made the remark, North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire, fury, and frankly power the likes of which this world has never seen before. In September 2017, at the UN General Assembly, President Trump threatened to totally destroy North Korea if the United States is forced to defend itself or allies. He continued to say the Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. In December 2017, the U.S. did a strategic flyover near the North Korea's coast with the B-1B strategic bomber. As a show of good faith, after the Hanoi summit, President Trump and South Korea canceled joint military drills that took place in March of 2019. However, the United States and South Korea continued smaller exercises with the Dongming military exercise that took place in March and August of 2019. They were conducted on the Korean Peninsula. The final aspect of the Trump administration foreign policy plan is travel restrictions and designations. Before the travel ban took place, a U.S. student by the name of Otto Warmbier was imprisoned in North Korea in 2016 for the crime of subversion. In June of 2017, he was returned to the United States in a vegetative state and would later die. This would influence the travel ban that would be imposed in July of 2017 by then acting Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. In August of 2019, the U.S. extended the North Korean travel ban until the year of 2020. The State Department currently has a level 4 travel restriction, which is do not travel. Under the Trump administration, the Treasury Department has imposed 24 designations. Again, designations are restrictions implemented by the Treasury Department on individuals whose assets are blocked and who United States persons are prohibited from dealing with. These designations include high-level officials, companies, the Army, and the country of North Korea itself. My opinion on the issue is that the Trump administration should continue economic sanctions, and even pile on more. They should also consider military options and even reconsider starting back up the military drills with South Korea, but on a much larger scale.